This video walks through how to configure API tests in ThousandEyes. The modern web runs on APIs. Whether used for automation, IT extensibility, application functionality, or revenue generation, APIs are a cornerstone of today's application framework. A degraded API can reduce functionality or cause complete application failure, affecting both revenue and reputation. With API monitoring, your team gets notified quickly when any critical component underperforms. ThousandEyes API tests are purpose-built for monitoring web APIs. They support multi-step chaining, a credentials repository for authentication, and a full range of HTTP methods. With the step builder, you can easily configure and chain multiple API calls, passing information between each step. To create an API test, navigate to Test Settings under Network and App Synthetics. Select Add New Test, then choose API. In the URL field, enter the URL, domain name, or IP address of the API you want to monitor, including the TCP port if needed. Then choose a test interval to set how often the test runs, select which agents will execute it, and give the test a name. Now for the optional network and security settings. By default, network metrics like packet loss, latency, and jitter are collected automatically. You can enable additional data collection for bandwidth, MTU, and BGP data from public monitors. For the protocol, choose between TCP and ICMP. This determines whether agents send TCP packets or ICMP echo requests for network metrics and path visualization. Select a protocol that works with your firewall rules and router ACLs, since they may block certain packet types. You can also adjust the transmission rate and configure the number of path traces. In the API Performance section, set the API transaction timeout and the target time for the view. Target time defines a color coding threshold. Results exceeding this value appear red instead of green. You'll also find distributed tracing here, which tracks HTTP requests across multiple services to identify delays or failures in complex applications. Click Next to configure the individual API steps. Under Environment Setup, click Variables to configure predefined environment variables as key value pairs. For the first API step, start by giving it a name. Then select the HTTP method needed for this API call and enter the API request URL. Configure authentication by choosing from None, Basic, Bearer Token, or OAuth 2.0. From here, add any parameters as key value pairs and modify header fields for the request if needed. Under the Assertion Rules tab, define what constitutes a successful API call. By default, it's an HTTP 200 OK status code, but you can choose from the full range of status codes with qualifiers like is or is not, or use the response body to determine success. Under Post Request Options, you can uncheck Collect Response for this API step for regulatory situations. When disabled, the API response is received by the agent to run the test, but isn't sent to the ThousandEyes platform. Here you can also add variables and configure a post-API call delay. To add more steps, use the API Step Builder to chain additional calls for a multi-step test. When all steps are complete, click Deploy. Keep in mind that API tests provide multiple layers of results, including network metrics alongside the API data. Once your test is running, review the results in the Views section. API tests provide a robust and adaptable approach to monitoring API transactions. With the Step Builder, setting up testing against your own application APIs or third-party dependencies becomes a seamless process. Thanks for watching.